Uncomfortable, conversations about culture and Christianity. My name is Alex, and today I am having the pleasure of being joined by Sam and Isabella. I will let them both introduce themselves a little bit more, but I'm excited to have the conversation. If you have never seen the show America Ninja Warrior, then maybe these names aren't familiar to you. But if you are, if you've watched the obstacles, if you've watched people build obstacles, if you've watched the love story of American Ninja Warrior, then you should know these names. Sam, Isabella, just introduce yourselves to people. I know you're more than just American Ninja Warriors, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Hi, guys. I am Sam Folsom. I'm 22. I'm a follower of Jesus. I have been training for American Ninja Warrior for around almost 8 years now, and I have competed on American Ninja Warrior, the television show, 3 times.
Yeah, I'm Isabella Folsom. This is new getting used to. I used to be Wacom, but we got married about 6 months ago now. I am 21. I've been doing Ninja, I think we're coming up on 11 years. And I've been on American Ninja Warrior 5 seasons. I was on American Ninja Warrior Junior when I was younger. And just have a huge passion for the sport, for the Lord, and just using everything that comes to us through Ninja Warrior for his kingdom.
Awesome. So before telling us how you found each other through Ninja Warrior, tell us how you just discovered. It's such a random, like my son discovered it through a birthday party and he's like, this is fun. But how did you both decide you want to go climb obstacles and do all this crazy stuff?
Yeah, I mean, my story started up similar to a lot of people's. I saw the TV show and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I tried other sports and just, kind of like I'm an active kid, but I didn't, nothing really ever stuck. But I was always climbing trees. I was always playing around. And you'll find that that's the backstory of a lot of ninjas is parents just couldn't keep them on the floor. So that was me. And I was this close to convincing my dad to build us a whole Ninja Warrior rig in our backyard until we found a gym nearby. So I started training when I was about 10 years old. And I was so lucky because the first time I walked into the gym, the coach there was Daniel Gill, who, if you've seen Ninja Warrior, you know the name. He is a legend and was incredibly blessed that his passion is similar to what mine is now of Ninja Warrior combined with faith and just everything for the kingdom. So I think as soon as I started Ninja, that was kind of just built into it immediately. And yeah, I mean, I just overwhelmingly blessed with that and with having him as a coach. So I started when I was 10 and immediately was just hooked. I was like, Mom, you got to take me to classes, and started doing classes once a week. And then pretty soon, twice a week, 3 times a week, started working there. And now I just live in the gym.
Yeah. And then for me,
since you brought up Daniel, I do have a quick question because I think another thing he's famous for is, has he ever given you tips on your hair? I'm just curious about that because he's got quite a hairdo.
No.
We're training on that.
Yeah, he's pretty secretive with his hair. He'll tell me all about Ninja and all about the course, but his hair is a secret he keeps to himself.
Good. That's good. How about you, Sam? How did you get into the ninja world?
Yeah, so I knew of American Ninja Warrior, sort of. I'd never seen the television show, but parkour videos on YouTube were like trending on my feed all the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to get into free running. And I really, really looked for gyms in the area that had a free running program. And no one had one. And so the closest thing was a Ninja Warrior gym. And I was like, well, it looks like there's boxes there. It looks like there's stuff there. Let's go do a trial class. And then I just went to a kind of a Tuesday night, dropped in, we do a trial class. And the night I started, I fell in love with it. It was like nothing I'd ever done before. It was just new. It was different. It was everything I liked doing already. I was already active. I was 14. I had a background of tumbling. And so when I got into it, I was like, oh my gosh, like, some of these things are just impossible for me. And I would see people do them with ease. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I want to get to that level so badly. So I trained at that gym for a few years and then started to build obstacles in my barn. And then slowly but surely a kind of transition phase came where I trained solely in my barn. And then I'm still in that phase now. I still train in a barn, although it's a different barn than the one I started off in. I've been doing Ninja now for almost 8 years. And so that's kind of what pulled me in with wanting to do parkour and then discovering Ninja.
That's so cool. So obviously you both fell in love with Ninja. I'm guessing neither of you thought falling in love with ninja would mean falling in love with like an actual other ninja on the course. So tell us, how did like you guys meet? What were just the backstory of, I guess, your friendship growing and then a romance blossoming?
Yeah, so we had met at competitions around the country in Ninja. There aren't many gyms close to each other, and unlike baseball, you don't go to another field that's 30 minutes away. You pretty much have to travel like a minimum. For me, it was a minimum of like 3.5 hours, which you would expand to 6, 12 hours away. Because of that, we would meet at world finals every single year. We'd see each other at competitions every single year, and you sort of make friends in the community as you go to different leagues. You kind of find out who your crew is, who's always competing in your division. And there's just the people you consistently see. And Isabella and I would bat for each other. We would always be at the pro level competition at a younger age. At the time, they allowed 13 and up to compete in pro. We were both in that 16, 15-year-old age where we weren't until the time allowed to compete in the pro division. They actually had to switch the rules right when we were in that kind of age to compete in it. So because of that, we competed in the pro level competitions together. And we were friends years before we started talking, just from the sport alone. And then, yeah, it was wild. I mean, it was WNL finals in 2021, 2022, 21. I think that's 2021. They've been in the same place every year, so it's so hard to remember which is which. Yeah, where we actually started deciding that we were going to pursue a relationship. And then we were long distance for almost a full year. And then I moved down to Texas, where we continued our relationship in not long distance for another year, which was nicer because we could actually train together, be together, live life together, not so far distance. And yeah, that's how it started, but that's how we met at the beginning.
Yeah.
Fun. Any details you leave out there, Isabella?
I think that were, I mean, there's a lot in between the time frame. We condensed it a lot. But yeah, the whole Ninja Warrior community is very close, which is a cool thing. And so most of my best friends were from all around the country. So it wasn't like a weird thing for us to meet and become friends, but definitely orchestrated by God, because the timing of which we came into each other's lives, I think, was I 17, 18 when we started? I was kind of in that phase. We weren't in a relationship, and then Sam popped up, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And we just kind of started talking, started hanging out. And I think what caught my attention most about him was, I know a lot of really good, and I was like, oh, another ninja, cool. I didn't really care too much about that, but he really got me when we started talking about faith. I've had those conversations with coaches, with my mentors, but never had it with a peer. And so to have those conversations about faith, and he asked me some like really interesting and hard questions about faith and how it tied into our performance as athletes, our career, and just how we approach things, and just really got me thinking. It kind of took the friendship from like this is cool, we'll compete together, we'll hang out, to like, oh, it immediately kind of went deep into another level. And the more you get to know Sam, the more he does that with everybody he knows, which is awesome. But yeah, it was just taking that step deeper into faith and taking that step together was what really sold me.
Yeah, that's so cool. So when you guys got cast, obviously American Ninja Warrior is kind of the thing that's put it on the map for the general population. I think it's kind of this little hidden gem, and it's exploding. I think more and more there's new leagues, and I think more of an ability to really make a career out of this outside of a TV show that airs once a year. But how did that happen? What was it like when you guys first both at different times got the call, like, you're going to be on the show? Like, I know that's an exciting thing, not necessarily because if you win the show, you're really the best ninja in the world. Cause I've seen the other competitions, but you definitely get, credibility. You get a platform, undoubtedly, being on the show, and people are going to know your name in a different way. So what was it like getting that call, getting tasked for America Ninja Warrior when you guys did?
Yeah, I mean, so we have a similar story, but very unique from the, I mean, the population and just anyone who's been on American Ninja Warrior in general. So when I was growing up, the age limit to compete was 21. Yeah, it was 21, and I remember waiting and waiting, and then Daniel, the first year he was my coach, was the first year he got to compete. He turned 21, got to compete. It was awesome, and I was 10, and I was like, oh, half like my whole life has to repeat again before I can compete on the show, and I was like, this is forever. And then I think that next year it got dropped to 19. I was like, okay, 2 less years, I can do this. And it was, it's a huge goal of anyone who's in ninja. Like most people start ninja because of the show. And it's just every ninja's dream to be on the show. It's the biggest stage, it's the biggest platform, it's really cool courses, it's just a whole experience. And so that was my dream, to get to compete. And I was just counting down the years. And then we got a surprise phone call, both of us did, that they were going to lower the age limit even more and that we were old enough to compete. And so we were invited, and
He did.
what did you get?
I never got the phone call.
Oh, his was cooler. I got a phone call. They showed up to his gym and gave him a golden ticket, and the news was there and everything. It was awesome. Mine was a little more low key, but it was still, I think I cried when they called me, and I was like, I get to live out my dream. I get this awesome stuff. And this was beginning of 2020. And if anybody remembers what happened in 2020, they go to filming in the first location. It was LA. They all show up to set, and before the first person runs the course, they call it off. And so they were all on set. The course was there, everyone was there, and they called it. And so, like, I mean, we all know, like, the world shut down. We didn't know what was going to happen. And so we were just kind of benched for a little while. And it was like, you have this dream and you're about to live it out. And then it got canceled. And so months later, they ended up doing season 12, but it was a mini season and they didn't have any minors. So they basically like took back that call from us. And I was devastated because it was, something I had looked forward to for so long. And then it was within grasp, and then we lost it. So that was pretty tough. But the next season 13, they went back to kind of a normal season and we were allowed to compete. But yeah, so that was how we got on. It was a crazy time.
So you just got done talking about 2020 and finally getting on the show, being told you're going to be there. They lowered the age limit. We got the Willy Wonka golden ticket for Sam, and then you get there to record and they tell you, nope, we're shutting down, COVID's here, and we're not lowering the age limit. So how did that impact, like, just how did your faith play into that? Because I think in all of our lives, we have those things that are going to happen where we're like, yes, we finally got there. This is finally my time. And then the rug gets pulled out from under us. And now we're left with disappointment and unfulfilled promises and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just curious how you leaned into both of you into your faith at that time.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think we've had a lot of that in sports, especially where, maybe you make it to finals and everything seems like it's going to go your way, or you just have feel like you've trained really hard and worked for it. I think the main thing is just knowing that there's a plan through it and a purpose, and either we're going to know at the end of it or we're not going to know. And I've been in both positions. And I think the cool thing though is through our life experiences, we just see over and over that God has a good plan. And so maybe that season was going to go really poorly for me. Maybe I wasn't prepared or wasn't ready for that. And maybe it had nothing to do with me and it had something to do with somebody else. Because we know that all things work together for the good of those who love him. And maybe that, I mean, obviously it's going to be good for me and for Sam, but maybe that was primarily on somebody else. Maybe something was going to happen. We just, some of those questions never get answered, but I feel like it's just we've been through a lot, and over God proves himself faithful. And so trying to just trust that makes everything easier.
Yeah, that's so good. So how is it going? 6 months in, now you're balancing being professional ninjas. You travel all the time. I was teasing my son yesterday. We had to drive about 4.5 hours one way to Ninja U from here in Omaha for about 4 minutes of competition. So I'm like, dude, we drove an hour, 2 hours for every minute you competed this weekend. And so that's just a reality. You're always on the road. You're traveling. People like me want to talk to you, and you still got to find time to train and do all these competing. Like, how is just marriage and figuring out this life together, competing in Ninja? Just how's that going? Balancing all of those things, your faith, your ambition, wanting to continue to grow. I know building obstacles is a huge thing you do, Sam. So how are you guys figuring out balancing all that?
Yeah, I think for us right now, balancing it in our current state right now is actually the best it's ever been. It was actually quite difficult for a little while there for Isabella and I, as far as training and work. And it was interesting. We actually recently came from Texas. We both moved up to Illinois, where I'm from. We lost the previous barn that we had trained in a fire. And because of that, we have built a new barn, which is good for a few reasons. And the main one is it's a larger facility, which has helped us with training. But then the other part of it is now we rent a house from my parents that is right on the property of the barn. So not having to travel for training is huge, like literally huge, because that saves us, for most people, that's an hour at least just for, 30 minutes to the gym, 30 minutes back. Because Ninja gyms are usually in a obscure areas. They're not normally like the prime area of town. And so having that ability to just train close is huge. And then for ambition and balancing that with marriage, it's good because Isabella and I have the same goals, which is amazing, because if we were split on two separate hobbies, I don't think we would get it done. And we definitely wouldn't get it done being as present in each other's life as we are right now. If she was a pro volleyball player and I was a pro ninja, I just don't think either one of us would be. I think soon that would turn into we are a volleyball player and a ninja not pro. We would be splitting between too many things. And so we're blessed to be split. I guess we're blessed to be on the same training ride together as far as ninja, and we're blessed to have the facility close to us. But yeah, we both coach at the same place, the barn. We both train at the same place together. And so balancing it, praise God, has been the easiest it's been, I'd say, the last 6 months for us. And so right now we're just kind of working events, training, doing what God has us next. And with Ninja, that's always something new. There's always something brand new that is the big up and coming thing that we try to participate in. But it's always, for us, we have the goal of sharing the kingdom, spreading the message of the kingdom at these events. And thankfully, these events aren't going anywhere. And so for us, it's kind of step by step, what event is next. And those are always random. I just competed at one at Stronger Men's Conference in Springfield, Missouri, which was, an event like nothing I'd ever done before. Just on a fly, like a friend of mine who was hosting it was like, hey, come out for this event. And we pull up and there's 8,000 people there. And we're like, what is this? And so the cool thing is God brings unique things into Ninja all the time. And I really do believe it's because the overwhelmingly influence of Christian people in this sport is why God works in it so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I just have something to add with that. Like Sam was talking about how we moved here this year. We moved in June, and we made the decision to move in like 2 hours. So, and I've lived in Texas my whole life, near my family, just near everything I know. And it all came all of a sudden. We were engaged, and the show had announced it was coming back, and just stuff with Sam's work and like everything lined up like to the day, to the T. I was talking with my mom when we got the call that the show was coming back. I was in the gym with my mom and Daniel's wife, Abby. And I just we're talking, and I was like, I think I need to move. I think Sam and I need to move back to the barn. And both of them, which was really weird, because obviously my mom wants me to be close to home, be close to her. She was like, yeah, I think so. And Abby was like, I think that's the right thing, which in a worldly sense doesn't make any sense at all, because they want me to be close to them and hanging out. And of course, my mom doesn't want me moving, 12 hours away. But they both just kind of were like, it is. And Sam wasn't there, but he came a couple hours later to the gym we met at. And we were talking about it. He was like, how would you feel about moving back to the barn? Or not back for him, but moving to the barn. And I was like, I just talked about that. And I think it's what we need to do. And it was really scary for me because it's totally new. Never trained outside of like Texas and with my core people. But we made that move, and it felt like it was orchestrated by God in those hours. And then once I got here,
everything was just orchestrated like to a T. The way, like, I had a place to live. Sam's sisters lived together, but one of them got married and moved out. And so she had a free room and I got to live with her. And then we got married and we have this house on the property. And right as the old barn burned down and the new one was rebuilt, within a month, we started our team program. It's a full job for both of us. Private lessons are here. I made a new best friend, Tyler's sister, Sydney, and just our whole community. And it's been growing and growing. And now we have a Bible study once a week with a bunch of our team families and some of Sam's family. And then like another Bible study with just some of the people we train with, like I guess we're not teenagers anymore, but I still view myself as a kid. A bunch of us kids have a Bible study
Youth
together.
group, Chime God.
Sure. Young adult ministry, whatever. But just the way that God has aligned all of it, we took a leap of faith. Like I was talking about earlier, took a leap of faith and it has panned out so well. Which again, of course it will, because God has our back, but it's just been really cool to live that out.
Yeah. So another season of Ninja is American Ninja Warriors coming. Do we anticipate seeing both of you there?
Yeah, it's coming out. I think June 2nd or 3rd or something.
Somewhere between 2nd and 6th or something, but we'll both be on the 3rd episode, I think. 3rd or 4th episode.
Yeah, we're really excited. It was a fun season. Some format changes, which were crazy. So if anybody follows Ninja Warrior, look out for that. It'll be awesome.
So people have something to check out. Now, I do have a question. This is just probably hypothetical. Imagine, that there was this wild show called American Ninja Warrior that you got cast on, and they actually let you make an obstacle. Like, you make obstacles, they let you make an obstacle for the show. It should be a huge advantage to like make an obstacle and train with it. And then you're running on the show and you get to the obstacle that you made, and all of a sudden it falls apart. Your run falls apart. How would you respond, like in a hypothetical situation like that, Sam? I'm curious.
I'd quit the sport. That sounds so embarrassing. No, in all reality, Ninja, everyone knows what Ninja is. Thankfully, I did have a couple of obstacles that I designed on the show that season. I'm friends with a lot of the people, ATS, who makes the courses for American Ninja Warrior. I'm super blessed to be friends with a few of them. And so they followed me. They saw a few of my things. They threw them on there. As a large part of the reason I got casted for that season, because I was actually absent a season prior to that. And then, you never know if you're going to get the call back. It's always you have to apply and everything. And so in that run, there was the first year for the Mega Wall that they changed the rules where you don't just get to the Mega Wall and get to run it. The Mega Wall is a 18-foot warped wall compared to the 14-foot. If you get to it and get up it, you get $10,000. And normally you just run it as you please when you get there. And this was the first season where they knew ninjas were too experienced on the courses. And they were like, you know what? We're tired of paying out $10,000. You got to get to that wall in under a minute 10. So in the moment, I chose to go for that. I chose to go for that. And when you're moving at a faster pace, it's easier to make a mistake. And in all reality, whenever I have a fall, especially a fall on something like American Ninja Warrior, as Christian people, we're bound to go, was it physical or spiritual? Is God trying to work through this fall for me in a way that I'm not sure yet? And so a lot of the times, as a newer believer, I'd be like, oh my gosh, what sins have I committed? What is going on? And as I've matured, I've realized it's not like that. And a lot of the time, as long as you, for me, as long as you're honest with God and you know that you have been honest with him, a lot of the time when performing, it's easier now, especially as I've matured, to go, okay, what did I do? Because a lot of the time it's God isn't trying to teach you every single performance, through your performance that you have a sin against him. If you don't, a lot of the time we make mistakes as humans. And that was, I do believe that fall was a mistake as a human, because in the moment I looked up at my brother and I was like, and I knew exactly what went wrong in the moment. I was like, you know what? I probably shouldn't have gone that fast. I probably should have taken another backswing. And yeah, that season was actually crazy for me. For a few reasons, but the main reason was it was my first season, being back in a while, but also it was for the show itself, was the can we say this? It's last year that I had the rope climb, right? It's like, I don't know. Okay. Sorry, we talked about something super private real quick. For that year,
This is the last of this old school
format. Yeah.
Like we said, there's going to be a new format this coming season.
Yeah.
We don't know how much we're allowed to say, but the last of this.
Or she's better at clarifying to me. But it was, the last time I was going to be on that old school format. And so it was a time that I really did want to perform in Vegas because I'd never had the chance to before. And thankfully, I think it was 13 people moved on. And luckily, I moved on in 12th place, which was a miracle by itself because normally that spot would never move you on where you fall. But by the grace and glory of God, I did move on. And so that was a testimony of itself because that's not a spot you want to be in, falling on the third obstacle or fourth obstacle at that time. So it was kind of a miracle itself moving on. But in that experience, in that moment, if I were to talk to someone, I know for the younger generation especially, you can get beat up about falling on an obstacle. It happens. And if in a testimony to that run, the next night I won semifinals and then won safety pass, and it's you're not defined by one fall. And for kids, if they can get that through, or a lot of the times a kid will fall on something that maybe they're good at in training, and then all of a sudden they'll have a complete mindset switch where they're like, oh my gosh, I suck at that obstacle, I can't do it, I'm not a good athlete. And it's not the case, and you do need to shake off those falls because sometimes God will allow you to move on and you'll compete 12 hours later, and you need to have a mindset that is not I'm this, but you are what you are in training.
Yeah. And I'd like to just get into the last question is, this is such an individual sport, right? Obviously you have team, you got people cheering for you, all that. And it anytime I watch my son compete, I'm like, I couldn't do that. I competed in all team sports because at least if we lost, I didn't have to blame myself. I could blame other people, right? Or it was the collective that failed. And I think there's just a desire for everybody to be first, to be on a podium, to have success. And, you're not training just to not have success. But what would you say to young ninjas that's it, their entire day is wrecked or ruined by, I slipped on an obstacle, I didn't make it to the podium, I didn't qualify for the next sectionals or whatever, when the end of their run, where they end up in the rankings defines success. I think that's a tough trap to be in. But how would you talk to, younger people that you're training about what their identity is in, and, continuing to compete hard, continuing to get back up and keep trying, but where their identity is found in the sport of ninja, especially an individualistic sport like this?
Yeah, I think for me, that's something I've had to work through for sure. And just you put so much work into your sport, into your job, or whatever it is that you do. And I think as Christians, especially, we're called to work for excellence, work for, everything we do as unto the Lord. And that means we're not going to do it half-heartedly. We're going to do it with everything we have. And for us, that's a lot of time. And even our kids, I coached a kid this morning who, is training private lessons 2 or 3 times a week, our team classes, extra training. His all is going into this sport. And how old is Brandon? 10? He's incredible, but he's young. And even as an adult, it's very hard to separate those two. And I think what's been cool for me is just having those experiences where I do fail, and really good things come of it. I've seen the Lord work through my failures and just giving me an opportunity to do something else or to impact somebody, and just seeing how I can still achieve my purpose with failure. And I think that takes a load off of my shoulders a lot, knowing that I'm not letting Sam down, letting my team down if I fail. It's just, especially with ninja, it's part of the sport. Everybody's going to fall at some point, maybe a lot. And that's just part of how it is. And I think being a Christian athlete is a huge benefit because we have that understanding of a greater and a higher purpose. And the more we can kind of live into that and understand what that means on a deeper level, the less pressure we have when we compete. And I still get nervous every time I compete. My heart rate starts to get high. My stomach starts to hurt a little bit, but I know outcome best or worst. Hopefully I don't get injured, but if I fail in the first obstacle, or if I win the whole competition, if I win worlds, I've done both. And at the end of the day, I go home the same person. And I think having that experience just yeah, just allows you to know that really your identity isn't in that. It's in being a child of God. And sometimes I'll tell my kids, like, hey, I'm proud of you no matter what. I'm proud of the work that you've put in for this. And especially I'm proud of who you are as a person. And I'm like, hey, your friend doesn't care if you go out and fall. Your friend cares if you're kind to them. I'm proud of you unless you storm off the course. I'm like, don't throw things and throw a tantrum. I'm proud of you because of who you are as a person. And let's maintain that, right? Like, and I think that's helpful. Like just knowing, the weight of the world, the weight of your coaches, the weight of your parents isn't on you. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to strive for excellence and to do the best we can. But, at the end of the day, I've had amazing performances. I've had terrible ones, and I'm still Isabella. And hopefully Sam still loves me at the end of the day. That's something I can count on.
Yeah. Sam, what I think I'm curious from you, because I think you have a unique perspective on this, and it's the same thing, but I think in a sport where you are ranked, where there's numbers attached to your name and points attached to your name and prizes and podiums attached to your name, it is so easy to fall into the comparison trap, right? And compare yourself against other ninjas and your value to be placed on those things. And so like, I know both of you guys train with people that are excellent ninjas. You've got a brother that does a ninja, Sam, that's great. And we're going to hear from him later. And so how do you stay rooted in who Sam is and who God's called Sam to be and not like fall into that comparison trap? Because you could fall into it every single day, every single failed obstacle, every single podium or not podium. How do you help ninjas just not fall into that? Because I think it's such a temptation. It's something, I try to help guard my son against is you've got teammates and you want them to do well and you want to root for them, but you're also like, I want to be better than them. Like at the end of the day, we're both competing for the ultimate prize. And so how do you help someone not fall into that comparison trap? Or what maybe words of wisdom or advice would you give?
Yeah. I think for comparison, I think I am in a specifically unique situation myself because I do train with the best ninja in the world, and I do train with Tyler, who a lot of people think is also the best ninja in the world. Statistically, I think Phil's won more than anything you can win on a fair level playing field, and he's a phenomenal athlete. Along with Tyler, I mean, he's won a absurd amount of things, both of them. And I think that actually has helped me not fall into the comparison trap, which is actually an interesting thing because a lot of people would think it would be. But it's interesting. Phil and Tyler both have a deep love and faith, and they both love Jesus. They're both pull hardly for him. And it's funny, the most times where me, Phil, and Tyler are having a successful day is not the day one of us wins a finals. The times where one of us has the largest celebration that we have as a group together has not been the day we win a huge cash prize. We've actually never have we had a situation where someone has a huge win and we're like, oh my gosh, like this person came to Christ. We have had multiple occasions. And I'll go ahead and say a few. I mean, we've had the barn competition, which was a huge win for all of us as a group. We had my sister and her husband both get baptized at the barn comp. They full-heartedly give their lives to Christ. And when you have stuff like that happen and you've been praying for it for so long, your purpose and meaning in the sport changes. It changes wholeheartedly because there's people who I train with who have gotten baptized, who have sought for the Lord after seeing the love for the Lord that they've seen in Phil or Tyler. And if anything, I'm like, man, I want to be more like that. And in all honesty, the success that people bring, so many people who are not Christians ask us, man, how do I get that? And it's just a byproduct of the faith they have for God. The success they have in Ninja is a byproduct of the Lord. And I'm not going to say you need to be a stronger Christian person in order to hit those podium spots because that's not how it works. But I will say seeing them up close and seeing the success they have in the podium aspect of the world is not surprising. And there'll be more and more of it for sure. But the reason I think that I'm not comparing, being like, oh my gosh, I want to be on that spot on podium, is because our main goal in life is to do well, to perform well, to hit that excellent spot. But if we don't, then God has a different mission for us that day. And a lot of the time I've seen myself, there will be times when it's like, whoa, Sam missed the mark today, have been some of the coolest days in our mission field ever. And same for Phil and Tyler. And, I'll ask them after a comp where I thought would be a terrible day for them. Hey, how did it go? Because, you really bombed today. Well, me and Tyler were enjoying the finals round. You were, sad in the corner. It's actually not like that. Phil has had cool testimony stories where it's like, actually, today was the coolest moment of all. I got to share my faith with all these people I'm not normally around, because usually I'm in the finals competing. It's like, there are times when you see what they get to complete. And so it's weird. I would say not having that imbalance of perspective of my identity is tied to podium, because I know a lot of people who hit that first place spot all the time who don't have a purpose, who don't have a sought goal in life as a whole. And that's a scary place to be. And anyone who seeks truth finds Jesus. And if you're not seeking the truth, then a lot of the time you'll find yourself in bad addictions, bad areas of life. Maybe you need that podium spot to fill something in your life. We don't need that. I don't need to hit first place to be fulfilled, because I'm already fulfilled when I step place on the course. So to make sure, to make sure your identity is tied to Christ would be my main thing, because if your identity is tied to Christ, then first place actually doesn't fulfill you any more than last place.
That's so good. That's such a good perspective. And that's, partly what's so cool about having you guys share this on the show is, like, I've seen people see that in the ninja world. Like I said, my son's new to this, but even at his gym, the owners, Lewis and Kelly, like, they're like, these people are awesome. And, they always point to, like, Tyler and Phil, they've come, you've shown up to Midwest Ninja, and they're like, these are awesome ninjas, but they're even better people. Right. And I think in a lot of sports and a lot of spaces, you're able to say, these are really good athletes, but their character's a little shady, or they cut corners to get there, or things like that. And so I know from tons of, little whispers from little 12-year-old kids, and my daughter who's 6 and just started competing, like, people are looking up to you, but it's not just, at the end of the day, the podiums or seeing you guys on the show. My little girls were super giddy this morning when I'm like, I get to talk to Isabella. They were all super pumped. But for them, I want them to know, hey, but Isabella's not just an awesome ninja. That's cool. That's how you're introduced to her. But she's phenomenal as a person and as human, and her heart for the kingdom and living with eternity in mind. And so, yeah, so fun to hear from both of you. And I'm grateful for just the time you've taken and sharing a little bit of your story. And yeah, thanks.
Yeah, of course. It's been a blast.
Yeah, we love just getting to share what the Lord is doing in our lives, and because it's a lot. And it's awesome. It's so good.
Awesome. So if people want to connect to you guys on Instagram, or what's the best way that if people wanted to connect with you guys, follow you outside of the show?
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly on Instagram, Isabella.ninja.
Yeah, and then Instagram as well. Then GH3_1 only. I feel like, yeah, I always answer DMs. So if anyone has questions or anything, I'm not like some big famous celebrity who doesn't answer.
Yeah, and then we recently have started competing in a new team league, which is awesome. We get to do it as a family. It's Sam, Phil, and myself. So we also have an account for that. It's KJ. It stands for King Jesus, and then Barn Burners. So yeah, that's us as a team, and then that's our individual accounts.
All right, I'm not following that one yet, so I'll have to give that a follow. I did watch, I think, a video today of Sam going to hug Isabella and then skipping her and hugging someone else. That was interesting. The video work there.
Yep. We're working on some barn competition promotional videos.
Yeah, videos to yearly competition. Every year. It's one of the only 3-stage comps left in the country other than UBW and Bucket of Chalk. And yeah, last year it was great. We have Ninja Church on Sunday every year around, I think, 10:30 a.m. And yeah, it was our 5th year of it. And it's been awesome. It's more of an event for family and friends to gather than it is a competition. But yeah, if any ninjas are watching this and they have questions about it, reach out, because it's a fun weekend and we try to make it kingdom filled. And so yeah.
Yep. And we make silly promotional.
And I'm approaching very shortly the master's level, and so I told my son maybe at that point, once I cross that age barrier, maybe I'll start joining him in there. So that'll be a great time to join the event.
Awesome.
Do you have old people there? Masters? Do you let masters compete at your event?
It's actually our event. I've been persecuted a lot for this, but last year we had a 10 to 12 division, and then we had like another. We had two kids divisions, and this year it's 12 and up. That's it. And the reason being it's so hard, so many courses. So it is yes, masters have already signed up. So if you're older than 12 and under 120, you can sign up.
This is good news. Amen. All right. Well, thank you guys again for your time, and we will talk to you all hopefully sometime. Maybe I'll show up there. My son, that's on his bucket list. So we'll see you hopefully then. Okay, for the second part of this conversation, I'm going to be joined by Tyler and Phil. If you have been somebody that is just exposed to the ninja world via the show American Ninja Warrior, these are names you may not have heard of, at least yet. But if you know ninja and actually follow it and know who actually wins most of the competitions, then you've probably heard of these names and been intimidated by them or impressed by them or all of the above. And so today I'm joined by Tyler and Phil. Just love to have you both take turns introducing yourselves, and then we'll jump into more of the conversation.
Absolutely. My name is Tyler Smith. I'm 17 years old. I live in Illinois, and I've been fortunate enough to win, I believe, like 3 or 4 world finals, I believe, and just like different variations, of course. I've been competing for 9 years. 9 years, I believe. So I've been in the ninja world for quite a while.
Yeah. And my name is Phil Folsom. I'm 18 years old. I also live in Illinois. I live in Dorsey. I'm about 15 minutes away from him. I train out of my barn in my backyard, which we'll be having more. We'll talk about that more later. But in my ninja career, I've won 3 world finals. I've won 2 UNA finals, 1 FINA finals, and then NSC finals I won not this past year, but the year before. And that's just a little bit of the stuff that I've done.
Awesome. And so I didn't discover until my son started competing for his team at Midwest Warrior Academy here in Omaha that there is this whole world outside of just a TV show that may be popularized Ninja Warrior, but then there's all these competitions and you've got to drive and there's these ninja gyms everywhere. And so some of those are some of the world, championships that you guys are talking about. And of course, a lot of the people that are on the show are competing at many of those events, but you guys are beating and have beat a lot of the people that are on that show. And so tell us a little bit about maybe just how you both got into ninja and what made you passionate about it and start competing at that high of a level.
Yeah, I started whenever I was 9 years old, I believe. Yeah, 9 years old, and there was a ninja gym that opened near me. I was actually doing a bunch of other sports before. I did some basketball, and then it was actually whenever I was doing tumbling is whenever some friends told us about a ninja gym near us. And so we went to try it out. And it was about a month after it had originally opened. So it was like brand new to any of us. And I had watched the show a little bit before, so I was kind of familiar with it. And I started doing it, and I quit tumbling 2 months into it just because I wanted to put all my time into ninja. And so 9 years later, I've been doing it ever since. And I mean, I just love ninja because it's not like any other sport where you kind of see the same thing back to back. It's always changing. There's always new obstacles every week. I mean, out of 9 years, I don't think we've gone like a month without someone posting something new or there's no 2 courses are the same. So whenever competing, you never know what you're training for, which makes training twice as much fun for ninja because you train literally anything you can think about and it's useful. Like it's not, you're never training something that's not useful for ninja whenever you're just having fun doing it.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Mm-hmm. And then
how about you, Phil? How'd you jump in?
Well, mine was pretty similar. When I was growing up, I started ninja when I was about 10. But before ninja, I think it was 5 sports I got them squeezed into 1 year. So a season of each. So I did football, soccer, baseball, hockey, and ninja. So like going into Ninja, I was like, okay, I love all kinds of sports. I'll try this one out. And how I found it was my brother Sam looked up like parkour gyms near him because he wanted to get into parkour, but a ninja gym showed up and he started going there. And I was like, that looks really fun. I'm going to join him and try it. And ever since I started, I've loved it ever since, just because, like Tyler was saying, it's so unique and it's just different from everything else that I've done.
Yeah, I think one of the crazy things that I learned through it that most people might not know is that uniqueness. You don't ever get to touch a course before you try it out. So if there's an obstacle that you've never done or something that's totally new, I think a lot of people are like, all right, they've trained for it, like basketball. Most sports that you do, you're like, okay, the hoop is always 10 foot. I always know how to shoot a free throw. But this is like the first time you're touching some of these obstacles, or all of the obstacles in the sequence they are, you're running. You're getting judged on it. And so that's such a unique part of, I think, the sport of ninja versus any other sport. Even other individual competition sports like swimming or track, where, it's you versus the track, or you versus the pool. I've just got to go 50 yards, 50 meters, and I'm done. But ninja is in a world of its own, because you literally show up that day and you don't know what you're going to get.
Exactly. I mean, yeah.
What makes that exciting?
I mean, it's just like there's always such an adrenaline rush whenever you walk into a gym and you see the course for the first time, especially if it's at World Finals. Like for World Ninja League Finals, you walk in and it feels like such a big event because there's so many people there, especially all the kids. I love seeing the kids. They're always so supportive, and like just being able to watch them compete along with adults, like either they're in the same age group in the elite division, because that's 13 and up. You can be 13 and older and compete in that. Or if it's in a kids age division on one side of the gym, and then on the other side, you're watching the masters division compete or something like that. It's always so entertaining because their courses can be totally different, or they can be similar with a couple changes. But I mean, no two courses are the same. You have like one course might be a 2-minute time limit or a minute 30. And then the next course will be 4 minutes long. And you just never know what you need to be ready for, it's just such an exciting thing about it. It's always so exciting to be able to see new obstacles any course you go to.
Yeah. And then another thing that's cool about that is you never really know who's going to win the competition, because like I usually compete really well and I can compete to a high level. But this past NSC finals, there was one obstacle early in the course that I just couldn't figure out. And that happens a lot in ninja, more than other sports, I'd say, because it's so unique and finicky that sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get. And that just makes it entertaining.
Yeah. That's so cool. So one of the things you mentioned, Phil, was you train out of a barn. So you ended up going to a gym. Your brother Googled or whatever, trying to find a parkour gym. And then how did you start building? You guys just had a barn in your backyard. You just decided, I'm going to start building things. Tell us kind of how the genesis of the barn began.
Well, yeah. So I was just talking to Tyler about this. After Sam found that parkour gym, or I guess there's a ninja gym, it was called Shinobi. He came to the barn, and what we did first is the barn had 2 levels. And on that second level, we hung hoses down. And, connecting.
Froze a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry, reconnected there. I'll run that back. But anyway,
Right,
so,
back.
well, what we did was the barn had 2 levels. So from the top level, we hung water hoses down. And we would swing from platform to platform and just play tag on them. And if you touch the ground and tag, you'd be out. And every now and then, one of those hoses would snap on us. But then it just started growing from there, to the point where we were able to do private lessons in the barn and have a consistent training schedule. And it was just crazy how fast it went, because it started off with a salmon ladder in the corner, and then it just kept growing. It's awesome.
I remember whenever I first went into the barn, there were probably maybe 4 or 5 obstacles total. They had a warped wall, a salmon ladder in the corner, I think a pegboard, and some balance just laying on the ground. And I was told, like, apparently it used to be an actual barn. Like, didn't you have animals in it?
There used to be animals in it.
Yeah. So
We first moved to our house.
quite literally just a barn with a pallet flooring, some rubber over the floor, and like it was quite literally a barn, and they hung stuff from the rafters. And so whenever I first came in, 5 obstacles, I mean, they were super cool. So, I mean, because every gym is unique. Every single gym is unique.
Yeah.
And so we started building in there. I mean, it grew for like a solid 4 years, just into something you would not even expect to look like. The outside looked like a barn. You went inside and it just was a whole ninja gym. It was incredible.
Then when we first started, though, we didn't really know how to build much. So there's a chance that every obstacle you get on could break. So added a little bit of adrenaline to our training.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so over the time, like, you guys start competing, you're training out of this, makeshift barn with all these obstacles that are a little bit dangerous and stuff. How does stuff start to like catch on like that? Are people starting to see you guys win and they're like, where the heck are you guys training? Or how did the barn become this place that was this alluring place for ninjas to want to go to and see and experience?
I honestly feel like it was just because of the freedom the barn had. Any new obstacle that we would see set up on Instagram or just on any social media, we were able to set up. The only thing we were limited by was our building capabilities, which even that we made work. Like,
Barely.
So we barely made it work. Some of the things were a little scary, but I mean, there was no limitations to it, which, I mean, for a ninja gym, you have some limitations to what your coaches set up and everything like that, but having the freedom of the barn is what I feel like put us ahead of some people, and just the fear factor of it. Training above some mattresses that we used as mats gave you the fear or the endurance to keep going because you did not want to fall on them at all, because you'd either hit the wooden floor below it, or you'd fall on an uncomfortable mattress. But I mean, just those little things that they helped just keep pushing us further and further. And then as people started to learn about the barn, they're like, wow, that's crazy, and we want to come join and like come train. And so we had people who were on the show, they came down to the barn, which was super cool. We got to train with them. And I mean, just it slowly grew over time to something that, I mean, I know the Lord really had his hand over it, because with how scary and like how we had things set up, looking back on it is really crazy that no one got seriously injured in the old barn whatsoever, which is really a blessing and a miracle. I mean, it's like, it's just crazy to think about for us.
But yeah. Ooh, reconnecting.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I mean, another thing is like, it's just pretty cool because the barn just looked like a barn. And that was like another thing that people would say was, hey, this is just a cool place to go and train, which made people want to come over and train with us. And especially when we're able to put up high level obstacles whenever we want, because most gyms now are birthday party gyms. Like, maybe not all gyms, but focusing on kid setups and obstacles for kids. Whereas for the barn, every single obstacle in there was a pro level obstacle. So for pros to come train with us made a lot of sense because it was good training.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that because even at my kids' gym, they've got levels of teams or kids that they're competing for. So it's just a constant, all right, well, we've got to swap this out because these kids can't reach this. These kids can't do this. And so it's just this constant, how do we find obstacles that somewhere meet in the middle and challenge, those who need to be challenged more. But you guys are like, we'll just build it all. And we're not having kids' birthday parties in this place. They might die or they get eaten by mice. So,
insurance is
so
the
you
expense.
started having competitions there. How did competitions and things like that start taking place?
Well, for the competitions in the old barn, we spend months. Well, we spend months on the new one as well, but especially on the old one because
Yeah.
we double secured everything. We double matted up everything. But for actually making the courses, it was just same as any other comp, I'd say. But we got a lot of feedback of people wanting to come to the barn. And I can only see that as God's hand on everything because in reality, people probably, they see the barn, they see how it's set up, and they see the sketchiness of it. Most people shouldn't want to come to our old barn just because of the way it's built. And
Yeah.
our first barn competition had like what, 80? I don't know, almost something like 80 competitors, maybe less. Or maybe it was 50 competitors for the first barn. And then the second barn comp, we got like 30 more or something. And we were like, that's really cool. Then barn comp 3 was the last barn comp in the old barn, right?
Last barn comp. Yep.
And that got almost 100 competitors, I think.
100, yeah.
But just seeing it grow and seeing how God has hand on the growth of our barn and our competitions was awesome.
Mm-hmm. I mean, looking at it, I feel like the main reason that people wanted to come to the barn, not just because of the unique training style and the uniqueness of the obstacles, was because of also the environment of it, the people, like the way we could just help entertain them. I mean, it was so much fun to have people out, and I feel like a lot of people who came to the barn really felt that and wanted to come back for more. And I feel like the best way we could get the most people out to the barn was to have a barn comp. So, I mean, it was just a great way to have people, to give people a chance to come out to the barn and have fun and play on the obstacles that we've made for them. And I mean, I feel like that's where barn comp really started because, I mean, we were getting people saying from so many other states saying that they wanted to come down, but they just didn't have the time or the reason to. And so I feel like barn comp really gave that time and reason.
Yeah. And then one thing to add on is what we would do, or I guess my parents did this without me knowing it, was they would pray over the land. They would pray over land of where the barn is at our home. And they would say, God, let this be a place where your presence is felt above all else. You know, because we can have a barn comp and that's awesome. But we also do a church on Sunday and we've had baptisms and on it's awesome. But they would pray over the land and then there would be people who come to us and be like, I don't know what it is about this place, but I came here and I was worried about 100 things yesterday. I came here and then all of a sudden I had no worries and I don't know how to explain it. We had a couple people, like more than a couple, we had like lots of people say that almost every time. And I think that's the main reason is because we pray over our land and we pray that God's presence is felt. And it's just it's all God's work for our competitions. And it's his presence that's around us, which is awesome.
Yeah, because as I think about it and you're describing this place and this barn, there's not a lot of logical sense that this becomes a destination. It's a barn, not in a big city. It's kind of just put together by some teenagers who are putting obstacles together that don't have any engineering degrees. There's mattresses on the floor. It's not, super, not all the fancy trussing and, all the safety stuff. And the fact that people are wanting to show up, people that are some of the biggest names in the sport, like none of that makes logical sense. And so it's like only God could take something that's broken, not the best looking, not the most attractive, in a kind of a desolate place and say, and I'm going to put people there and I'm going to use that kind of, and that's kind of the story of a lot of people in the scripture.
Yep.
That's how God often works from humble spots that nobody else would expect it. And so that's cool that he was doing that at the barn.
For sure.
A lot of momentum's happening at the barn. Cool things are happening. People are showing up. They're wanting to be a part of it. And then what happened to the barn?
So it burnt down to keep it short. But
Yeah.
It was really a crazy way that it happened. So we were out, me, Sam, Phil, and our other training partner, Paul. We were all out of town in Texas, actually. This is where Sam was living and working down in Texas at the time. and we all went down there for a Ninja Sport Network competition. We all went down there. We were all staying at Sam's apartment down there, and the night before the barn actually burnt, Sam was doing some ninja and had a cane on a ring, and it slipped off him in the face, broke or chipped his tooth. And so that night he goes to, or he can't even get fixed that night. He goes, I don't even know. Wait,
He was this morning.
yeah, the next morning he has to go get fixed. And so I'm asleep. He comes into the room where I'm sleeping. He wakes me up, I think like at 8 o'clock, and that's an abnormal time for me to wake up because I stay up late nights and wake up late mornings. And he comes in, and I could tell like his face was red, his eyes were a little teary. And he wakes me up and goes, Tyler, wake up. And I go, well, and I'm just sitting there thinking, if your tooth hurts that bad, just go get fixed or something like that. And he tells me that the barn burnt down and that there's nothing left of it. And I sat there very confused, like, why would he play this trick on me this early in the morning at such a random time? And I could just tell in his face that he was telling the truth. And I was so confused. I sat there for so long wondering why it had happened, how it had happened, and just what we were going to do about it. And so it was crazy that we were all together. And our last training session in the barn was all together as a training group. And that we were all in the same place as it had happened, out of town, 10 hours away from the barn, 12 hours away from the barn in Texas whenever it had happened. So very little we could do about it. And it was just a devastating feeling. And it was probably one of the hardest things one of the deepest things I have felt.
Yeah, and looking back on it, for me, it was probably a blessing that I was out of town, because if I would have been home, I could have seen myself getting hurt in that fire, trying to stop it. But man, just like Tyler was saying, Sam had a rough couple days. But I walked into the room because I heard Sam talking on the phone. He sounded really distressed, and I was just confused. I was like, I'm going to go check on him, make sure his tooth is okay, because it sounds like he's in a lot of pain. And I walked in, and it just caught me so off guard. I was in his room, and I just was stunned. I was shocked for like 10 minutes before it actually hit me. And then the rest of the day was just very, I don't know, dark almost. It was just so sad. We ended up after we recovered a little bit, we went to a coffee shop and we started writing down all the things that we needed to get for insurance. And it was just so abnormal, because it just felt so wrong to like think that all that stuff that we had is just gone now, and we weren't even there to see it or help about it. And it was just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and as we were writing stuff down that we knew we needed to replace or anything like that, I mean, it just kept bringing back all the memories of all the things we had, all the things we did in the barn, and all the blessings that we had. It was just crazy, because in that stunned moment, I couldn't cry, I couldn't do anything for, as Phil said, like a solid 10 minutes. I was just confused and stunned, and I mean, it was just, it was hard.
Yeah.
So how did God use just those moments? Literally, you built this thing, maybe not the exterior of the barn, but you built the barn, you built the brand, you built the excitement. Those are not just obstacles that you bought on the internet somewhere and put up, but they were things that you put blood, sweat, and tears into, and the training. After those things kind of unfolded and you got to look back a little bit past the initial shock, what were some of the ways you guys saw God's hand at work, his faithfulness? I think you already shared some of that in the immediate aftermath of not being there, and probably would hurt yourself trying to save it, and some of those things that God's maybe saved you or spared you from. But what were some of the ways that challenged your faith moving forward and rebuilding and restoring it?
Well, for me, I mean, I think the main thing was the community around us was almost more sad than we were. Because for us, after we got through that initial shock and it was like devastating, it's all material goods and it's not what we put our life into. And it's not that it sucks, but it was just, that's not going to last forever. Right. And that was one of the main things that brought up so many conversations about, man, that's devastating. How are you taking it? How are you okay? It was like, we don't put our faith in the barn. It's not what we live off of. We live off of God. And the conversations that started was amazing. So that's one of the ways that I think God used that was just the conversations we were able to have.
For sure. I mean, it's like people have like testimonies in their lives, and like I feel like it's just a testimony. I mean, a lot of people struggle with the why and the how of why and how things happen. And I feel like God allows things to happen for your future benefit. And I feel like we've really seen that with the new barn. And I mean, of course, there's things we think about like it didn't have to happen. Like it didn't have to, but it did, and God allowed it. And I feel like all the people around, as Phil said, were almost more sad. I feel like because a lot of them were talking about wanting to go to the next barn comp at the old barn, and that they weren't able to make it out to the barn, and just sad that they weren't able to make it. And we had spent all of our time training there. So it was devastating, of course, but we take away the great memories we had, all the blessings we had in the old barn. And we really use it. We try to use it for a testimony now of God's greatness in even our pain.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I think the first time my son, like I said, we're new to the whole ninja community, and I think the first time I had ever heard of the barn was they brought these barn boys up to Midwest Ninja Warrior to design a FINA course, and help just raise money to rebuild the barn and things like that. And so I'm like, oh, what's this all about? And so my son competed in this competition, and then we're like, Kelly and Lewis were like, these are the real deal ninjas from this barn place. And so you guys made this course, and my son started competing at that time and trying to get to Worlds. And now as we're kind of in this FINA circuit and this UNAA circuit, trying to understand what ninja is really all about outside the TV show, we discover these barn boys, which are Tyler and Phil, and I know Sam and other people are part of that. And we start going to competitions and start to hear your names. And we were kind of confused because all we knew was this TV show, which has, names like Daniel Gill or Karsten Williams or some of the other names that are on there. And we're like, the TV show convinced us, no, those are the best ninjas in the world. And then we see you guys at these competitions, and we got to go to Anaheim last year in Worlds. And we're like, wait, there's another story here. There's like this other side of people that are competing. And so moving on from just a barn and what God taught you there, I'm curious, in a place where there is this TV show, there's probably more fame and accolades that come along with your name being known, competing on the show. And I think every ninja that competes wants to try it. They want to be on that show, right? And so you guys, at least up to this point, as of our recording, haven't been a part of that. And so how have you dealt with, like, okay, we're some of the best ninjas in the world. Like we beat a lot of the people that are on that show and have in competitions and have world titles, but nobody really knows our names. We're just, as far as the general population that associates with ninja equals American Ninja Warrior. How is, like, maybe living in those shadows or still competing and not feeling like maybe you get the accolades or the earthly fame that comes along with that? How does that sit with you guys?
Well, for me, I really want to be on the show, obviously, when I was first getting started and when I was first learning how to do anything or any ninja obstacles. But as time went on, I started seeing the sport and the growth in that. I started looking at the show and being like, that's not the sport. That's not what I want to do. And it's like the way that they run it's just a show. That's the best way to put it, is it's just a TV show. And I've applied for it, obviously, but again, it's just a show and I can only do so much. If I don't have an interesting story or something like that, or a cool background, then I'm just not going to get called. And at first it was like, man, am I just not good enough to be on this show? And I fought with that for a little bit, and then I was able to just let it go and be like, God, if you want me on the show, then I'll go on the show and you'll let it happen. If not, I can do your work wherever you send me. So I'm okay either way. And that took a little while to get there, but at first it was just confusing, and it forced me to trust God's plan. And now I don't even look at the show as something that I really want to do, because I've seen what I can do in other places, and I've seen the show, both good and bad sides of it. And I would love to pursue the actual ninja sport more than the show now, which is awesome.
Absolutely. Like, as Phil said, like, the show, the show is like, it almost, in our eyes, it feels like a small part of the sport. It's just like another competition. I mean, there is a good cash prize, which, I mean, anyone would love to win. And especially, like, at our skill level, whenever you feel like you can win it, it is devastating not getting called or picked. Whenever you really feel like you can give other people a run for their money for that cash prize and everything. But I mean, that's not all of it. Like, I mean, the show is a small part of the sport for us. I feel like the main way I can make an impact is not, I would love to show God's glory on the show, but I feel like the main way I can make an impact is one-on-one in person with someone, which I do best at a competition. So I feel like outside of the show, the best place I can interact with people is like at these smaller competitions. Like, I mean, even finals, like it feels bigger for me than the show just because of the people who are there and the, like the attention that like it draws. Like it's just a weird thing. It's like, it is like a reality TV show, it feels like. So it's just, I just don't have a good enough story to go on, which, I mean, it makes you doubt if you are good enough to be on. But I mean, I feel like I've proven to myself that I would do well if I was on it. So I don't really have anything to prove to the show.
That's good. That's good. I'm curious from both of you guys, basically, if people pay attention to Ninja and it's a big competition, a pro level competition, it's shocking to not have Phil or Tyler on a podium somewhere, first, second, third, at least on the podium, competing for money, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of times it's 1 and 2. You guys are battling it out in a lot of spaces for 1 and 2 in a competition, which, in a lot of places means you guys are rivals, right? Like you guys are competing. You both aren't going to let each other just, hey, here you go, Tyler. I feel like you should get it today. And Tyler's not going to say, I'm assuming, to you, Phil, I'm going to take it easy on you today. So how does that work out? Like, how does your friendship work out and trust in each other, and probably this little bit of a rivalry because you both are competing for this same podium, the same prize, the same money, the same medals? How does just that relationship work?
Well, for me, if we're both still in the same competition and we're both competing against each other, if I take second to last and he takes last, I won the competition and I'm having a great time. That's all that really matters. But I mean, obviously we want each other to do the best that we can. And if he beats me one day, I'll have another chance, and I'm sure I'll get him another time. But as far as our rivalry goes, it's all fun and it's all good. We don't actually have any big competition against each other. Like if we're walking through a course together and eyeing up the obstacles, I'll tell him what I'm thinking and how I'm going to do each obstacle. I'm not going to hold back any techniques I'm going to do or anything like that, just because we're good friends and we're training partners and we want each other to succeed at the competitions.
Yeah, I feel like at some point whenever you've competed in as many competitions as we have, and especially together as training partners, I feel like there's at some point where you're like, at this point, it's not even about the competition. It's about the people you get to talk to and everything. I mean, I've seen Phil like not do the best at a competition, but then still be happy after because he gets to go see all of his friends and talk to everybody. And then I'll do the same thing. And I mean, there has been times where like one of the NSC, I think the very first, or probably I think the third NSC finals, was it when at Rock Solid, whenever you took 10th and I took 9th? Yeah. He took 10th place, I took 9th place. And I mean, I was just happy to like be that one spot ahead of him. Like,
Awful cup.
honestly, yeah. Like, we neither of us did our best that day. And I mean, it was hilarious. It's something that we get to look back on and be like, that was a funny part of our career and a funny part of the competition. I mean, it's a lot of fun to be able to do something a sport that you love with your friends. It's not team sport, but it almost feels like a team sport in the way we compete.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to share beta with each other and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's, Tyler just finished a run and he ends in like a minute and 2 seconds. And Phil, you're up next, and Tyler is your last one to go. Tyler, are you thinking, let him take one extra pull up and end up at 103 seconds, pull one extra pull back? Like what's going on in your mind? Like, how can you cheer for one another, but also be like, I want him to do well, but maybe a second slower than me?
You froze first. Hello? It froze a little bit.
Oh, we lost. They froze for the last second. But
sorry. What was the last part of it? I heard about the pull up and take an extra second part.
Yeah. So what are you really thinking as you're watching him on the course and he's the guy between you and a gold medal or a prize?
I'm honestly thinking like an extra backswing would do it for me. But I mean, it honestly kind of depends on which competition. Like if it's a world finals and I know like I'm in first place if Phil beats me, I mean, obviously it's going to be a little sad, but then, I mean, it just shows like how close we are in training and in skill level. So, I mean, it kind of just, honestly, it comes down to who's better at the end of the day, or like, just like, no, who's better that day. Like it's so close. Sometimes you honestly can't even expect each other to take a backswing, because if we're locked in and we're doing our best, like you probably won't see Phil take a backswing or something like that. Like, honestly, a lot of times you just can't expect it. Sometimes at the end, I'm like, well, I gave it my best run. Let's see what Phil does, see if he can beat it. And sometimes he does. Sometimes he will take the extra backswing, and it'll put me above him. But it's just it's so every now and then.
And man, another thing is like,
Yeah.
I really want to beat him, and I put out when I'm on that starting platform, and I know he's in first. Gives me that extra little bit incentive to like, all right, I think I'm gonna push it a little bit harder, which can sometimes just not work out. And it's fun, but it does add a little bit more pressure when I see that Tyler's in first, because it's like, I trained with this guy, and I know he's gonna keep mentioning it if I lose. But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I think maybe that to this next point, it might be easy for, people to say this is easy for you guys to talk about because you're some of the best in the world. But I think it's difficult in a sport that is so individualistic, that you're spending so much time training for. Parents are spending a lot of time, and money taking their kids to practices, paying for their lessons, paying for private lessons. I was hoping that the private lesson my son did with Tyler would really help him get the talent yesterday and win his competition, but he had a rip, so I'll blame Tyler for that. But seriously, how do you talk to a kid or somebody else that the podium's all that matters in competition. And if they're not on the podium, they didn't equal success. Or if they failed on an obstacle, that speaks into who they are as a person, not just, that run. How do you speak to people that, or to the young competitor that's trying to get better and trying to learn that failing is a part of the sport, that you're not going to always be on a podium, that how do you speak to those things?
I mean, I feel like I struggled that with a lot whenever I first started Ninja, because my very first competition, I ended up winning. And I mean, that just kept the ball rolling for me. I was like, I'm going to win every competition from now on. I'm just so good. And then my second competition ever, I stepped over a line I wasn't supposed to and took second, and I was devastated about it. And I was like, well, I just lost. So maybe I'm not as good as I thought. And then, I mean, our home gym competitions I would do so well at, but then we'd go outside of our home gym to a league competition, and I'd come in like 10th most of the time, because I realized how many good people there were outside of just who I train with and where I train. And so I feel like a lot of the time I was like, podium is all that matters, and that's all I want. But then as I kept doing Ninja longer and longer, I made friends, and I honestly felt happy for the people who beat me, who got podium. Like, I honestly felt I was happy for some of my friends who were beating me and stuff like that, because I got to see them advance in their Ninja. Because I feel like a lot of kids quit Ninja just because they aren't advancing fast enough. But whenever you see one of your friends advancing and you see them falling in love with Ninja, like how you did whenever you first start, then like it's just a great feeling. And I mean, it just showed me that like podium isn't all about it. It's about the people you get to influence and the friends you get to meet. And because Ninja is like, it's such a great, kind sport. One of the most Christian sports, I think, ever. And so like, I feel like it used to be a lot about podium for me, but then, I mean, it's a lot of times it's just like, it's stuff you can't handle. Like whenever you have a rip on your hand and you just can't do something. Of course, you can try your hardest to fight through it, but I mean, a lot of time it's just something out of your capabilities, which is something I had to learn. It's just, I'm going to have stuff that's outside my capabilities. I'm better at some things over others. And I mean, it's just something you have to learn and adapt to. And that means that whenever you go back to training, it's something that you train harder at so that you do become better at it for the next competition.
And yeah, as far as speaking into a kid's life about that, one thing that I'll do is when someone comes up to me and they're like, I keep falling, I can't make podium, I mean, I'm just not winning. I'll be like, I haven't won every competition. I've fallen a lot, and I've fallen on big stages early, a lot. So one thing is that if I'm able to be comfortable with talking about falling and comfortable with staying humble almost, or just saying, this sport is so finicky. Every obstacle you try is new. Almost every obstacle you try is new. Every competition you do, you'll have an obstacle you've never touched before. So if you can get into your head that falling is okay and it's the best way to learn, then you'll go so far and you'll advance so much faster. And you can see it in the kids, because the kids that aren't afraid to fall will fall hundreds of times, and then they'll be consistently getting better. And that's just the way it is if you're not able to fall, you're not able to get better, which is hard for most kids to wrap their head around because they're so focused on that podium. But it's just the main thing. The main thing in Ninja is you have to fall to get better.
That's good. I think one of the lines that you put in there or said, Tyler, great t-shirt design, people over podiums, and I think that's such a cool, as the preacher in me is like, yeah, that'll preach. I need to put that on my X later on, but that's such a good lesson anywhere in life, the accolades, the podiums, the barns, all of that stuff it's going to fade. Jesus tells us that, but it's the people in our lives, the relationships that we build through those things the kingdom impact that we get to have that really does make a difference. And that's what sustains us. You know, you didn't get to call up any of your podiums when the barn burned down and say, hey, can you fix this for me? Right? Like it's not the podiums or the metals that are fixing your barn or coming with you guys, but it's the people and the relationships that you guys built. And so if you guys trampled over people on your way to those podiums, the barn might not be rebuilt today, right? But since you guys have cared so deeply about people and investing into people's lives, you know, when tragedy happens or things that are unexpected things in our lives, it's going to be the people, you know, that show up for us, not our possessions or our podiums or any of that kind of stuff. And so cool to learn that from you guys. And I'm even hearing so much of that in the things that you're sharing, which I think is super encouraging. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. This has been a great conversation, but are there anything else that you guys just want to offer, any other advice that you want to give, other thoughts that maybe have been going through your mind that you haven't been able to share yet?
Well, I wanted to talk about the basically the rebuilding of our new barn a little bit. So
Yeah.
What's crazy is we tore down all of the old barn, all the rubble, and we got rid of it. We had a flat plane of dirt, and we got working on the new barn, and we got the new barn built up, and it was a little bit more expensive than we wanted it to be. We were like, oh, that's going to be hard to put obstacles in now because that was expensive. And then as we started building rigs and putting obstacles in, time after time, we built our first two rigs, our first wooden rigs, and we were like, man, we need some rubber flooring, but rubber flooring is expensive. And then the next day we looked at Facebook Marketplace, and then there was a gym, like a Gold's Gym or something that was 2 hours away, that was like, hey, we just tore down our gym and we need to get rid of this rubber flooring for a quarter of the price or even less than it usually is. And we were like, wow, well, isn't that just convenient? So and my dad has trucks that he has for his business. So we took a truck up there and we got that rubber flooring, and man, that stuff was heavy. But anyway, we moved it, and that was just one of the blessings. And the next thing that happened was one of our coaches, or one of our students that we coach, his dad sent us a message and was like, hey, there's this ninja gym that's going bankrupt and they have to auction off all of their stuff. And it's, again, a quarter of the price. And there was a whole trussing set up for it so cheap that we were able to get for an unbelievable price that we were like, okay, well, this is obviously God in all of this. And just the blessings that we had rebuilding everything was awesome. And then going from that straight into Barn Comp 4, which was our last Barn Comp, was the biggest Barn Comp by far. And seeing God work there was amazing, because we love Barn Comp and we love all the obstacles, but the main goal there is the church on Sunday. I think we had 10 people get baptized and give their life.
15.
15?
Yeah.
Sheesh. Well, we had a lot of people get baptized, and the presence of God there was amazing. Just seeing God work in this new barn has been so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, guys, as a dad of a couple ninjas and, a fanboy of you guys, following you on social media, just grateful for what you guys are doing and the way that you guys are caring, for people. And for your willingness to jump on here. Like I don't know if I mentioned this yet or not, but even as I was talking to owners of my kids' gym, Midwest Warrior, they're like, yeah, these are great athletes, but better people. And so grateful for them connecting us so we could have this conversation and all that. If people want to follow you guys, they want to follow your adventure, see what Real Ninja looks like outside of the TV show, what are some of the ways they can do that?
Mine just Instagram, and it's Phil_send13.
And my Instagram is the one I'm most active on, would be Tyler_247Ninja.
All right. How many Instagrams do you have, Tyler?
it's the most active social media. Like it's the one I'm most active on for social media. I had a Facebook, but I'm not active on it.
I got you. Yeah, that's only for the masters level competition people. They follow Facebook, so yeah, I'll be there one day. Well, really appreciate you guys, and thanks again, everybody, for listening. If you've got questions, you can send us an email, podcast@cccoma.org is the email. You can find us Instagram, TikTok at podcast@cccoma.org. But until next time, we will talk to you then.